Hey everyone, this is Josh back with Cardboard Chronicles. Today I'm speaking with Michael Moeller, also known as Double X the Beast, and today we're going to be talking about player collecting, specifically from the 90s. So Michael, why don't you just start us off?
Yeah, I've been collecting cards my entire life. I'm 36 years old. I quit for maybe a couple years in high school, like a lot of people do, and picked it back up in college and have been doing it ever since. And specifically, Grant Hill was my favorite player growing up. So now I'm in my 30s and have amassed a 5,500 card Grant Hill collection, which is just insane to even say, but that's where I'm at now with my collecting.
So what got you started initially?
So, um, beginning with collecting him or just being a fan of his was probably how it started. Um, Back in 1994 when he got drafted, that was I was like a lot of people. Baseball was probably a little bit more collectible at the time. Basketball hadn't caught up with the card market just during that time period. But we went through the baseball strike in July or August of 1994, and I was 12 years old at the time. And I guess Grant Hill came along at the right time, right place. I went to Oklahoma City and saw him play, and believe it's a second exhibition game ever, preseason game at that time. And of course, we had no basketball in Oklahoma at that time. We were 10 years removed from till we had the Hornets during Hurricane Katrina years, and then of course the Thunder later on. Watched him play in person. Of course, everybody saw him doing Sprite commercials and Fila commercials and all these other things, and I was hooked instantly. Started collecting him, as a kid. Remember going to a mall in Amarillo, Texas, in probably '95, maybe even early '96, with my mom, and at that time, cards were pretty plain, pretty bland. They were just starting to really pick it up, and saw my first 94, 95 finest refractor of his, the card number 240, the one that's considered his rookie, and had to beg my mom for $50 to buy it, which she did. I bought it, and I had the card for, I don't even know, over 10 years. I owned it, and at one point in time, I sold it. It wasn't centered very good. I sold it so I could turn around and buy a PSA 9 at the time. Same card, just but I wish I wouldn't have done it now, but of course I did. But that started I guess the addiction. Even way back then, I collected him off and on over the years, and then probably in 2009, the economy was terrible. Things weren't where they are now, of course, and I had a bad job situation at the time, and I sold everything I had. I didn't have anything near like I do now, but I had sold everything, all my Grant Hill cards, and most of my collection as a whole. I had two and part of a third complete '96 Topps Chrome refractor sets, including Kobe, multiple Iversons, Nashes, and probably had about 40 PSA 10s at the time with different guys. And I sold all that stuff. And if I would have just held on for 6 more months, I changed jobs, changed career paths, and I would still have a lot of that now. So fast forwarded to 2015, I had been baseball prospecting, lots of Bowman Chrome. My wife and I would bust 50 plus cases a year and sort sets and everything. And I'd really gotten bored with doing that. And my wife had said, why don't you change it up, do something different for a while. And so right about that time, I just decided I was going to go all in on a player collection of Grant Hill, because I had a long history of his cards anyways. And so, I went in full throttle right off the bat, and led me to where I am now with having so many cards.
So what is it about Grant Hill specifically now that's got you back in and excited to collect him?
Well, it's the '90s cards in general. It's that era. It's what a lot of us grew up enjoying, and he was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan. He's supposed to be the next face of the NBA, and so he was a bargain buy at the time when I first started coming back in. For as good as he was at the time, he was a bargain buy. I could build a pretty ridiculous collection without spending Jordan and Kobe prices. So that was appealing to me, and that's led me to have as many cards as I do now of him for a fraction of the cost. If I was collecting Jordan or Kobe, I would have 10 cards right now, compared to what I have. So I enjoy that aspect of him. He's relatively affordable, getting more expensive every day seems to be. But the first couple of years I was building this collection, he was very affordable. I think my PMG Red I picked it up in a big lot of like a lot of other nice Great Hill cards at the end of 2015 for $600. In person from a collector in Oklahoma City. So you can't pick those up like that now. So the market's changed drastically.
Yeah. So as a player collector, I get this question a lot too. Are you truly going after everything you can find?
Everything pre-Panini, 2009 and before. I try to get everything I can. The precedence and the main priority becomes the 90s cards. So if I've got a certain budget set aside, if I've got $2,000 sitting there, I will go for 90s long before I go for the 2000s cards. The 2000s cards, I just kind of use them as fill-ins. Some of them look great. Some of them are very underrated. They're very underappreciated, but for good reason, because the 90s are just that much better. So I do try to collect everything. There's no way I can ever get all of the 2000s cards. There's just too many. But I do try. It's an uphill battle.
So how do you keep things interesting then? Like, it sounds like you're sort of getting towards the point where you're having to look for the oddball stuff and random cards. How do you keep it interesting?
Yeah, so it's the people you meet. You just keep meeting people, and that's what keeps it interesting. You keep posting, showing your cards off, and you come across a lot of people that come and go into the industry, and a lot of that is you can pick up collections from when they do go out. You meet them. I trade a lot of my duplicates to guys that are building Grant Hill collections. And that keeps it interesting for me, and I just love the designs and the cards. So I don't really have a tough time staying interested with the cards, but collecting one player primarily all the time is a challenge, because I see other cards I want to buy a lot, and I know, oh, well, if I go spend this $1,000 over here, I'm not going to have it the next time a big Grant Hill cards pops up. So I tend to slide away from those cards, and sometimes I deal with some regret because I don't pick them up, but the next big Grant Hill card that comes along and I'm able to get it, that regret's gone. So it evens out.
So what cards would tempt you the most?
Right now,
It's not Grant Hill, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers in football, of course, I think he's so undervalued, and I see his prices and I see things going across, and those definitely make me want to slide over and buy a few of those. But probably the biggest thing is opening boxes. It's opening boxes that I used to buy for $50 that are now $200 and $300. In 2010, 11, and into 12, I was busting over 200 boxes a year of 90s boxes, and I wasn't spending that much money on them at the time. Those boxes are, crazy high now. I busted a box in probably 2012 of 97, 98 EX 2001. And I think I bought it for $88 on eBay. I mean, everybody knows those boxes are over $500, $700 now. And hit an Eddie Jones jambalaya out of one single box, which was cool. But and those are things that really pull me away from my Grant Hill collection at times is boxes. It's busting boxes.
So what's your secret to finding all the best Grant Hill stuff? You've got a ton of stuff. How do you just like eBay nonstop, Facebook, Instagram? What is it?
It's all of those. It's all of those and then some. It's uh, do Google searches all the time and image searches and try to find somebody who used to own a card and see if I could find an email address somewhere. I've had good luck with doing that in the past. It's searching old forums, Hobby Kings, PSA's forum, some of these different ones that aren't even as active now as they once were. Occasionally you'll get lucky. And of course, social media is a huge tool for all of us. I buy probably 25% of my cards on eBay now, where it used to be 95%, because I use Facebook and Instagram to buy so many cards. And it's been a huge tool to be able to add to my collection.
How
For
do
sure.
you treat the money side of it from a player collecting perspective? Because like if you're if you're collecting like Jordan and LeBron, you can kind of dual purpose, collecting and investing. How are you doing that from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question, Josh. When I started this venture, it it was not an investment. I didn't even think of it as an investment. I figured everything I put into, a guy with terrible ankles, that I was going to lose every penny that I put into it. And it's been the opposite. I don't know what I've got in my collection. It's $40,000 probably. And it's worth considerably more now, because everything is just, the market's at an all-time high right now, where it ever has been. And there's really been a peaked interest in these 90s cards, especially ones that can be traced back to, people who pulled them or people who have owned them for a long time, and ones that we all know that are authentic. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to locate a lot of those. I bought out three or four collections, most of them small. One collection probably makes up maybe 25 or 30% of my collection. It was the Sam Cobb collection. It was featured in a Beckett back in 1998, 99. His collection was, and him and his dad had collected Grant Hill since day one, and it was one of the most thorough collections you could get. And a good friend of mine, John Anderson, bought the collection in New York, locally, where Sam and John, where they live, and I was able to pick through it over the last couple of years and get all of it, and get most of it. I didn't get all of it. Some of it he sold at different times, but I was able to get most of the big cards that I needed out of it. So that, things like that makes it really, really nice being able to pick up these cards from an investment standpoint. But it's also nice because even if I did want to sell, I mean, the money's not everything. So, even if I lost a little bit, it's been fun for how many every years I decide to do it or keep doing it.
So then if you're picking up lots like that, are you keeping duplicates? Are you selling them? What are you doing with all the duplicates, especially the big stuff?
Yeah, so I don't sell many of them. I've got tons and tons and tons of duplicates, and I will trade them to other Grant Hill collectors that aren't really flipping them, that I know that are keeping them. I'm in two Facebook groups that are Grant Hill Super Collector groups, and I trade with those guys pretty regularly, and I get a lot of nice cards back from them that I don't have. And I don't typically sell to people if I think they're just going to be flipping them. I'll just hang on to the card and maybe occasionally throw one on eBay if it's one that I want to get rid of. But seldom do I ever move any of the rare stuff. I just hang on to it, unless I know it's going to somebody who wants it to keep it.
So if someone comes to you knowing you're collecting all the big stuff and they've got a second monster card that you already have, how interested in are you in spending your money on that versus finding something new that you don't already have?
If it's an upgrade to condition, I'm extremely interested. I will always upgrade condition. You can't have a collection with too high of a level of condition. So I always pick those up when I can. Those are definitely take precedence. I typically, if it's the right price and I don't have anything else I'm working on buying, I'll just go ahead and pick it up. Even if it's something that that I don't necessarily need, or even if it's not a condition upgrade, if it's the right price and it's something I can just stash back with the rest of my collection, I'll definitely pick up duplicates. And I know you made note of that at the national. We were talking about this, with how you can't stand duplicates in your collection, and you're against that. I guess I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. I think it's really cool when I can get several of one print run. I think it's really neat.
Yeah, I only do that because I need the money for LeBron, so it's strictly a financial decision. Um, so you mentioned that you stopped collecting at Panini, and I'm really trying to avoid making this just like a bashing Panini. I really don't want to get into that, but um, what is it about Panini that kind of shies you away from their stuff? Is it, Grant Hill had his prime well before Panini, and I know that probably plays a part, but is there anything else that keeps you away from it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the quality of the card is designs and things like that. It's to me, there's no comparison to pre-Panini versus what they've done. They're just their cards just aren't as good quality. They also produce a lot of designs that just look the same year after year after year, and I don't necessarily think they're putting the time in on their design quality. And then I think they're just mass producing a lot of these veteran players like Grant Hill. You see they just mass produce their autos, patches, and things like that. And Grant Hill only signed for 3 years for Fleer Skybox up until Panini had signed him, and so his autos were very rare for years and years and years. And now it's definitely watered down because you see his autos in every single Panini product, multiple versions, and I don't really care for that so much. And then the '90s cards, that's the ones when I was a kid. So I don't care to collect things as much now that I'm an adult. I don't have as much, much tying me to the value of that card like I do the things from when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think the new collectors coming in just have a different, they don't have the background that we do in the '90s stuff, so they like to collect the new stuff and they like to collect current players. So I definitely understand that. And then the more that Panini pumps out of the new guys, it sort of makes the stuff that we collected when we were kids even more appealing, right? Like it stands out more against all the watered down stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But even with that being said, you talk about the new kids coming in and collect what you like. If you like the Panini stuff, collect it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
Just not my cup of tea necessarily. I'll bust some occasionally. I'll bust, especially Prism when it comes out, just to grade a handful of cards and sell them or trade them, just to have something to bust. But I don't get into it, especially the autos and patches, which me and you've talked about a million times. I'm not an auto patch guy anyways.
Yeah.
I like just a good design card, a parallel card or insert card.
Do you like the Revolution stuff?
It looks good. It looks good. It definitely has a lot of '90s, design. You can tell where it was influenced, but like I said, it's still not my thing. But people who collect it, have fun with it. Collect anything. If it's those, if it's jerseys, if it's shoes, whatever it is, collect and enjoy it.
Do you have any other crazy pickup stories on the top of your head?
So let me think here. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say crazy, but when I did decide to really that I was going to collect and I was going to do this, like I said, at that time I was collecting lots of Bowman stuff and grading a ton with BGS at the time, and I decided I was going to sell all of that and start collecting. And right in the middle of that, I got very sick and had to go through bone marrow biopsies and lymph node biopsies. And I was actually when I was going through all that, I was sitting in a cancer in an oncology doctor's office, bidding on my StarQuest Gold that I ended up winning at that time. And I still laugh about that now, and because I shouldn't have been worried about anything other than my health, but things like that keep your mind off of stuff, and keep you going. But and then moving probably a week after that, we already talked about the when I picked up my PMG Red was right after I had my lymph node biopsy, and so I've got a bandage on my throat. I'm bruised up, and I meet this guy in Oklahoma City. I was there for a follow-up doctor's appointment. I meet him at a local card shop to go pick up the PMG Red and some other stuff. So at the time, I weighed about 130 pounds. I'd lost 100 pounds in a few months just from being sick, and there I am worried about Grant Hill cards at the time.
So I love hearing like the happiness in your voice, even though you're going through that. Like cards, it sounds like they helped you get through that crap.
Oh yeah, yeah, it did, and I'm going to collect until I die. It doesn't matter what it is. I've always collected, whether it's I've collected comic books for years. I've done cards, just different things that to keep me busy. And so I'm always going to do it. It's never going to be something that I'm always going to use it to take my mind off of other things. Just the way I am.
Yeah, people outside the hobby usually are confused when I tell them, or you collect pieces of cardboard. How does that work? But when you're talking to other collectors, you can just kind of see like the joy right in their face and the reasons they do it. It's awesome.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree.
So what's the end game?
What's the end game?
Because so when I remember when I first got in, you had come in, not too far before that, and you were hitting Grant Hill really hard, and now you've got a ton of Grant Hill. So eventually you're gonna like get to a point where you're gonna maybe shift to something else, or what's the game? What's the goal?
Yeah, obviously it's still just to have the most thorough and complete collection that you can, and it's kind of a race against the checklist, and just the player checklist, just trying to get all those cards you can, and it's tough, and I've really hit a bottleneck just in the last probably 3 or 4 months. So right now I'm not even actively looking at buying as much as I was. I've kind of backed up a little bit. I'm organizing and grading a lot and doing a lot of those things right now, and probably going to hit it really hard next year again and try to buy a ton. And if I'm not able to buy a lot of those, I'm going to start a side PC of some sort. And right now I'm leaning towards a sealed box collection. I've always wanted to do that. I've always had a terrible time keeping them sealed when I've tried it in the past because I can't keep from opening. But the prices of them now have really driven me out of the opening them. It's just better investment to keep them sealed at this point because of the cost. When I was buying 97 Metal Universe boxes for $100, $150, yeah, they were priced to open at that time. And now that they're over 500, 1,000, you can't open them now. What do you hope to pull to come out on top of that? So yeah, I think a sealed box collection is probably coming in the next year or two for sure. But I'm not going to stop with the Grant Hill collection because there are still a ton that I need. I'm in the middle of updating my spreadsheet right now, and I think when I'm all said and done, I'm going to have around 65 to 70% of all cards from 94 through 09. So if you went and took the one of ones out of that, I'm probably at an 85% clip or something. So there's still some to get, but obviously it doesn't take a genius to figure out that mathematically it's getting hard to find ones that I don't have. Very difficult.
Yeah, totally. Why don't you talk about National a little bit? Just recap how it was for you and your time there.
Yeah, it was good. That was my, I believe, 7th National. I think I've been to 4 in Chicago, and that was my 3rd one in Cleveland. And this was by far the busiest one I think I'd seen. I think I got an email from the National saying it was a record-setting one, and it was busy. The 90s market was not there from what I saw. There were some few booths that had some nice stuff, but I was pretty shocked at how small of quantity that we saw there, and that just tells you that people are buying them and keeping them. They're not being flipped around as much as what they were. Panini cards were everywhere, vintage cards are everywhere, but but the good '90s cards, outside of Jordan and Kobe a little bit, those guys are always going to be sold. But even your Jason Kidds and your Duncans and guys like that, I just did not see a lot of them. And we talked about it a couple of times, and of course Adam and some of the other guys, Matt Buckley. There was probably better '90s cards walking around the showroom floor there in backpacks than there were in the booths, which was pretty incredible to see everybody's collections. And it's a lot of fun, but I want to see more of those cards coming up for sale. Just to even go see them. Out for some of the dealers. So I think we'll see that more next year in Chicago. I think there'll be a little bit more people that'll buy them throughout the course of this next year and just have them ready to go, because it's just not available once you go to the show. It's just not. But it was great meeting everybody. So many people that I've talked to over the years and never had a chance to meet. So that was a lot of fun. Met a lot of guys, a lot of dealers. I've got a lot more people looking for Grant Hill cards for me now. Just some of the dealers. I've already actually had one of them email me. He found a card. It wasn't one I needed, but at least they're looking, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I talked about it on my recap that my favorite part of National was just like going off to the side over by the food court area and just like showing off PCs. Like you, me, Andy, and Adam were talking for like an hour there, just showing off cards.
Absolutely.
So what is, from that perspective, what's your take on the future of the hobby, both from the '90s perspective, but in general?
Yeah, I think the hobby's. I think it's here to stay. I think people need to be very leery of the newer cards getting mass produced. I think rookies coming in, from college they're signing autographs at a record level right now. So I think people need to really be cautious of the oversupply right now at this point on some of the newer things. But with that being said, it's going to lead to some of these older cards. They're going to be in demand. That's not going away. Their low prices are right now. I think they're not going below where they are right now. And so those of us that are holding a lot of these cards, we're set pretty good for the future. Getting new cards, it's going to be a challenge. Getting real cards, better than anybody, Josh. Getting real ones is certainly a challenge. And anywhere there's this much money involved, there's going to be people that are drawn to it to do fakes. So everybody needs to be cautious moving forward with the hobby. But I think the hobby's in a good place. I just think we all need to look out for each other, make sure people who are faking cards are squashed out of the industry, whether it be blocked on Facebook pages or groups, things like that. We all need to look out for each other, but everybody needs to just understand that these prices aren't going down. They are where they are. Grading's not going away. A lot of guys don't like to grade. That's not going away because people want to know the condition. They want to know that it's real. I see a premium on that moving forward even more so than we have in the past, for sure.
Yeah, the '90s stuff is just like getting harder and harder to find. It's just like if a good lot comes up, like talk about that Grant Hill lot. Actually, I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. I still can't. Hopefully, this video will help drive somebody out that bought it.
So don't leave out details. Then you need to be descriptive here.
It was a 62 card lot. I had someone bid on it for me. I was in the middle of moving, wasn't able to bid on it at the time, but I had someone bid on it just to get them and hang on to them for me for a month or two. And we didn't win it, unfortunately, but out of the 62 cards, there was only 6 cards that I didn't have. There's a 99 2000 Topps Gold label, Class 3, the red label. I didn't have that one. It's number 25. There was probably the number 1 card on my want list outside of masterpieces, which are just hit or miss whether you can find those, is the 97, 98 Star Rubies, the number 1, the base Rubies. I don't have that one, and that one was in there. It's the first one I've seen available in probably 3 years. That was maybe the two biggest ones I was looking at getting. There was a few upper deck cards that are different inserts that are numbered to 25 in there that I don't have. Those aren't as high on my priority list. I want to get them. I want a complete collection, but those style wise, they're not as good as the Fleer Skybox cards. So those cards were probably the two biggest ones that I wanted out of there, and was very disappointed not to get it. But I've been even more disappointed that I haven't been able to find who bought them. I thought for sure it was going to be somebody that was looking to flip them and split them up, and they haven't hit eBay. Nobody at the National knew where they went. The seller, which is fine, understandably so, he won't tell me who bought them. So it's been frustrating because I'd like to get my hands on at least a couple of them. If I can't get all 6 of those, at least 1 or 2 of them. That still knocks cards off my list.
What did you think about the price? I know a lot of people on Blowout were upset, but what did you think about it?
It was actually, whoever bought it got a good deal. From, if you look at recent sales and where the market is right now, they actually got it a little bit under what I believe they would sell for individually. And that does not factor in if any of them grade high, which is obviously a big factor when you buy a big lot like that. So they definitely, I wouldn't say they got a steal, but they got a solid deal. I think we were about $1,000 under where we bid, and I thought we had a decent shot at getting it, and we were just blown away by the final sale price. But it is what it is. That's where the prices are, right now. And I read a lot of those Blowout, people making comments about the price, and if they would have sat down and looked through the cost of or the sale prices of each one, it wasn't far off at all.
There's also an emotional attachment to the lot. Like for me, if that was penny, I would not have thought twice about bidding more than what the market would have said, because you're never going to find a lot like that. Like the value of each of those cards is what it is, but the meaning of it to me is a lot higher than that.
It is, and like I said, if I hadn't been moving at that time, I would have won it at almost any cost. Relatively speaking, but it could not have fell at a worse time for me. And I was thankful I had somebody that was willing to go out and try to get it. And so we took a stab at it. We didn't get it, but that was a huge lot. We won't see another one like that of any player probably again. Just with the way the market is right now.
All right, let's end with some cards. I know you brought.
You want to pick some cards?
You brought some real big ones.
So I've got 5 cards here.
Most people aren't willing to show the big ones, but I'm glad you are.
Yeah, I'll show a few of them. I've probably got some that are more valuable than some of these, but the first one to show is just I don't know how well you can see it there, Josh. This is 99-2000. It's just the Skybox Dominion, and it's the Sky's the Limit Warp Tech. The reason I'm showing it is John Anderson, the guy who had the big collection I was talking about earlier. This was the one he was going to hang on to and keep, and I finally talked him out of it. And so that was a big one for me to get. It's the first one I've ever seen, so that was a big one. And then let's go on a round of masterpieces here. There's the 99-2000 Ultra masterpiece. I don't know how well you can see it. You see it, Josh?
Yep.
And of course the masterpiece, 1 of 1 right there. So that was a big one to get. That came from the same collection as that. The Warp Tech. And then this is probably my favorite design, which, I know Matt Buckley with his Weber, back when he had it, this, he used to say routinely this was. And of course, this might be the best card of Hill in his Magic jersey that you can get.
Yep.
It's the 2000-2001 masterpiece, of course, and that's one of my favorites. I think it's just awesome looking.
I love all the PSA, man.
Yeah, I'm not switching everything to PSA, but everything new I grade is PSA. And there's the 98-99. There's the row 1 masterpiece, and and it's this has the blue, of course, the blue full. I know Antoine Walker. There's a few other players that have the blue full for some reason, and so BGS actually I took it to them. This is when I was still grading with them a lot in person, and they refused to grade it because it wasn't purple. And this card actually came from the same collection as the Ultra Masterpiece and the Warp Tech. and this card can be traced back to around 2000 when Sam Cobb and his dad bought it.
Wow.
So, I know it's authentic and everything, and really cool card. And then, of course, you know which one's coming next, don't you?
Yes.
That one, which was just, a dream just to get. It's one of those ones when you start when you start a collection like this, you hope you can find it. You're judged on whether you find it or not. And I was definitely very fortunate to get it, and it was just by circumstance actually that I was able to get it. It was another collector, Ron Friedman. A lot of guys see him around. He's got Allen Houston and a big Allen Houston collector. And I was helping him. He picked up an Allen Houston green, and I was helping him with price and checking it for authenticity and things like that. Just helping him with it. When he received it, he posted it. He posted it on Facebook, just showing it off that he had received it. And the guy who owned this posted and said, "Hey, well, it's awesome that you finally joined the club," or something along those lines, And Ron knew him, and so kind of put me in contact with him, and it was probably about 2 months after that we were finally able to get a deal done, and I've had it since February, I believe. So, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I told you, I turned down a very significant offer on it of $15,000, and money doesn't mean that much to me as far as selling it. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon, anyways.
Well, I'll be happy for you when I get my own copy.
Yeah, you've got to get one. Right now, you're outside the circle of trust. We need to get you back in.
I'm just some guy that has a bunch of Penny Hardaway cards.
Yeah, and this card has such, that mystique about it. It doesn't matter how many masterpieces you have. It doesn't matter if you have everything else. If you don't have this one, you just don't get looked at the same. For whatever reason, I don't feel the same way about it. As far as the way it gets looked at, but I'm not stupid. I understand why people love them. And Matt Buckley, he had, I think, 50 plus Chris Webber cards. Me and him had talked about it for years. It was the first thing people asked him. He has over 50 one-of-ones or whatever, but he would always get asked about this one. He didn't have one, and they always want to know if he was going to pick up a green anytime soon, which is crazy. But that's just what this card means to collectors.
Right. Yeah, man. Way to end it. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
That's
the
it.
end.
That's easy, Josh.
It was great talking to you, man.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, thank you.